In this video, I'm going to touch on a subject that I don't really talk about that often because I still haven't come to terms with it, but I figure, gotta talk about it someday, so I'm going to go ahead and do it today. I'm going to talk about the day that my father died. It was Monday, June 25th, 2007. He had just gotten out of the hospital on Saturday, which obviously must have been June 23rd. And the morning of the 25th, that Monday, he had an appointment with his heart doctor, which he went to at about 8 a.m. in the morning, came home around 11, and, got in bed, sat up in bed. That's pretty much where he stayed, so it wasn't abnormal to see Dad lay down all the time. And my grandmother had went out to get him medication that the doctor had prescribed to him to try and help him get some fluid off of him that had built up because he has had congestive heart failure at different times during his life. So she went out to get his medication. She was at the drugstore, and fast forward to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He sits up, and it wasn't uncommon for him to ask me to, get him a drink or something to eat. Being as he was diabetic, if his blood sugar went low, I'd get him a sandwich or something that my grandmother had put in the refrigerator. Anyway, what I find interesting about the whole situation is that I would normally keep headphones on when I'm on the computer because I listen to music and everything, and normally when I have headphones on my head I cannot hear a thing. There had been several occasions where Dad literally had to scream at the top of his lungs to get me to turn my head and just go, "Were you calling me?" Not because I had it loud, but because the headphones that I use do a fairly good job at blocking out any outside noise. So what I find interesting is that I don't know for what reason, because nothing was going on, I decided I was going to take them off. And I took them off, and Dad asked me to get him something to drink, and he had a glass right next to him, but he couldn't reach it, so I went and got it for him. He took a sip of his lemonade, and he was sitting on the end of his bed, and he started to kind of go like this with his arm, just like this, just a little movement. And I asked him, "Why are you doing that?" And he said to me in a voice that I can't recreate, but he sounded scared, and it was kind of like I don't know. And next thing I know, he started to lean forward, which also wasn't uncommon because he would sometimes be sitting up and get tired and doze off and start to lean forward and wake up and then go, "Okay, I'm going to lay down," so he didn't fall off the bed. So he started to lean forward, and I thought for a split second he was going to catch himself, but he kept leaning. And I'm in my wheelchair, of course, and he got to a certain point in leaning when I went oh shit, excuse the language, but that's really what I was thinking. And he leaned forward, so I went to go grab him, and my dad was a big guy. He was 290 pounds, something like that. So as you can imagine, pretty tough for me to lift. And I didn't know that something had happened to him at that point. So I'm trying to, he's in my lap, leaned forward in my lap. It looks like he fell. So I'm trying to talk to him and get him to, get up, and he won't. So I went and got my aunt, and we proceeded to call the ambulance and the whole 9 yards. They came, and everything ensued. I'm gonna have to make a part 2 to this video because I don't want it to be like super long, but I've got some more details about the day that I'm gonna post in a part 2 of this part of my little story, which hopefully will be coming soon. It's gonna talk a little bit about the type of day it was, and a particular song and a band that I happen to like very much, that I find it eerie a little bit that events played out the way they did. So in part 2 of this little section, I'm gonna go over that. So stay tuned.